you talked about your experience working with at-risk children,
Yeah.
children in the justice system.
Mm-hmm.
Again, what were the issues that you saw that were
Mm.
going on with those children, and how well were they addressed or not addressed?
Whew, so many. And it's interesting because none of these kids were really bad. Let's be
Mm-hmm.
clear.
Mm-hmm.
When they found someone they respected and could connect to, they were totally fine.
Yeah.
But they had to build that trust and that rapport first, right? Like, so I
Mm-hmm.
was really like a lot of I couldn't tell you a client that eventually we didn't have a rapport with, right? I can
Yeah.
remember a kid. He told me he was gonna rip out my fallopian tubes and bury them in the backyard. Like, who says that? And I'll never forget it. Years later, it's funny though. He Facebook messaged me and he's like, I just wanted to apologize. Like, I was a jerk involved in the military and become successful. It was just like a great story to hear. But I'll never forget that he told me he was gonna rip out my fallopian tube. But that didn't make me not interact with him. The next day, it's a new day, right?
Yeah.
I saw that those were a lot of issues with a lot of it's adult issues. Let's be clear. It's not even the kids' issues. It's, lack of parenting or ignorance of parenting or lack of time, a lot of substance abuse happening in our community still. The parents just weren't involved. They might have had 3 or 4 other children. Some of my clients were parental figures as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Helping raise the kids with the mom.
Parentified children.
Yes, that's it. Yep, you
Yeah.
got it. So those were some of the concerns. Just having people take time with them, especially if I think about the partial hospitalization kids, though they had already been kicked out of a school, right? So that meant who took time with them when they were in the school? Nobody. Everybody's just like, oh, they're bad. We're done with them. Let's do another thing so we can get you kicked out. Like, that was probably the goal.
Yeah.
They didn't know how to handle. With the black males, which there's a lot of research out there already, just not having father figures, right? Or male figures, should I say.
Mm-hmm.
They were just missing. And not that you have to have you do. That's a lie. I'm not about to say it because there's a lot of women out here who think I can be your daddy and your mom. No, you cannot.
That's the PC position. That's the woke liberated position. But the reality of it is that it's also undeniable.
That's it.
That having a mother in your life and having a father in your life is a real resource for you emotionally and mentally.
Absolutely.
And that's undeniable. I think that it doesn't take anything away from a single mother. It doesn't take anything away from a single father to say that a child needs both parents. I think that it's come to mean that.
Yes.
But it shouldn't have.
No.
Right?
Because you need both those. You also need aunts and uncles, and that aren't toxic, of course.
You need a community.
Yes, exactly. So that's not always there for our kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think learning how to process emotions.
Yeah.
It's not there. Like teaching them what's okay. Like hitting people is not okay. Throwing things and breaking things. What did that just solve?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Because now you carry that into adulthood and you got to pay for stuff now.
Yeah.
Like, or you're going to jail.
But they might be being raised by parents who don't know how to parent.
Exactly. Right? Because that's how they do
it. But that again, it speaks to potentially the consulting part of your work.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I'm imagining that a lot of your work involves going out into the communities.
Yep. They did.
And on a larger scale.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to influence people. Can you talk about that work that you do?
Yeah. So COVID slowed a lot of that down, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. So some of it's virtual, which is not the same.
Yeah.
So I've done some with some of the community agencies, right? Like I still know a lot of people in all these community agencies, the schools, right? Like just getting out there and talking to educators, because that was another piece, like the whole social and emotional learning that I was doing in Cleveland schools. Interesting to say the least. There's a lot of folks who There wasn't a whole lot that looked like me, but there's some who had experience and could do that. But I still had connections with some of the principals and could talk to some of their teachers about, and a lot of mine, like I do a lot of cultural trauma stuff. And so teaching people, providing examples. I'm all about, like, I feel like people learn more from practical things, right? So give an example and let's work it out. Like, let's role play it. Like, let's figure out, you have a student that comes in and they just experienced a house fire. Like, how are we helping these kids? They can't focus on the schoolwork right now. So what can we do, separate them in the classroom to kind of help them process things a little bit differently. So yeah, just talking about strategies of real life things with educators. I do want to get, and hopefully, as COVID slows down, hopefully, do more with like parents. And now that I'm a parent, it's totally different. Like, I worked with a lot of kids before I was even a parent. And a lot of the parents would be like, how you going to tell me what to do? You ain't got no kids. Like, you're right, ma'am. You are the expert here. I'm just trying to assist, right? Because what you're doing right now isn't really working. So let's figure out if we can do something different, right? So providing that kind of like parenting stuff. I'm learning more with my kids. I have a 12-year-old and a 7-year-old boys, and they teach me stuff every day, as well as stuff I don't know, right? And I know and I don't know. There's no manual to this. So
not at all.
And then, just I'm teaching, right? So I'm teaching people how to become clinicians, which is interesting in itself. But having had all this experience I've had, it allows me to provide those real life experience to kind of direct them in ways that maybe they didn't think of. So I'm truly living my purpose, to say the least.
Thank you. So I think of one point that I want to make through all of that too, that can't be lost and must be explicitly said, is the idea that a lot of the issues that young people do have, and they're very real, they need counseling for them. But then also what we're finding is that their families also need a lot of counseling and support too, right? Like the issues that we see a lot in our at-risk Black youth are a lot of times rooted, if you trace it back, to unhealthy family situations, families who need help and support too, who either realize it or don't realize it. And so again, that's the importance that we kind of dig back, right? And for us as clinicians of color to be able to say, when you come in, well, let me meet your family, let me talk to them, let me find out what they need too. I brought you in here to help me help him or her, your teenage child, but how can I help y'all too? If I can't work with you, maybe you can't.
One of my therapists.
Yes.
Yep. And that's what I do. So if I have, and if I have a client that I'm seeing and the parent, I like for parents to come in every now and then, right? To have a session with them and the student or child. And then if I can't, and I wouldn't do both, even with couples. Like I work with a lot of couples. I wouldn't see them individually only because it's just too muddy. And I can't remember what somebody said over here and didn't say. And so it's just, right, let's get you your own whole therapy. So yes, and having access to for both of them to have someone to kind of process, because they got their own set of trauma probably they ain't processed, right?
That's right.
And then you try to raise a child. So